Hello everyone, hopefully you are doing great. So I'm Ashutosh Singh by the way, and today I'm going to talk about custom Docker images, right? So I'm already assuming that you guys already know about Docker and containers, and if you don't know, you can follow my previous videos that I'll share the link. And now about designing Docker images. So Docker image designing means we are going to create our own image, right? As per the requirement. So there are a couple of use cases when the developer or other people want to create their own image because of application custom design and the way you want Docker image exactly. So what are the ways of designing a Docker image? So if you talk about the tools, the first and very much standard method is dockerfile. And if you want to design custom raw image, you can use a tool like Scratch. And there's another tool that is popular these days, that is Builder, and many more, right? So our focus is in Dockerfile today. So if I'll explain more about Dockerfile, so Dockerfile is a way that where we can, just define some instructions, and on behalf of these instructions, we can build Dockerfile, and then from that Dockerfile we can build image, right? So we'll talk more about images later on, but yes, right now let's create this. So without wasting time, I'm jumping into the practical. The first rule is just to create an empty directory. There are a couple of reasons, right? So the first step is create an empty directory. So I'll tell you the reason in near future. So I'm just creating a directory called say my image, or maybe Ashutosh first Docker image, right? And I can go there. Then here there's nothing, right? So I have to create a file with the name of dockerfile. Remember, by default, you can give any name. It's not any restriction, but uh, generally the standard practice is to give a Docker file with dcaps as a small name, as a name of file, sorry. And maybe I can use dcaps Docker file, but you can also use a Docker file with small name. Okay, so I'm preferably choosing the first one. So here, and now you have to write here instructions. What instructions we need to use for what purpose? So basically, we are gonna build first Docker image. Let's say that Docker image uh, can install an HTTPD based Docker image. Okay, that means we can use any raw image like Fedora, like CentOS, and many other. And then we can use this image to prepare a Docker image that is having HTTPD web server. Okay, so now I'm going to use this. The first instruction is from. Again, the instruction also, it's not mandatory to keep either caps or in small, but yes, you can keep that. So from capital and small both are okay. So I'm using Fedora, right? And just commenting it. So Docker will check locally first, and if not present, not present, then it will pull from Docker Hub. Right? So that means whenever we want to use a base image, we need to use from instruction. So if your Docker machine or Docker daemon has the image locally present, it will use that. Otherwise, it will pull from Docker Hub. Second instruction is not important, but you can just give a brief info about yourself. Maybe in near future, some people want to connect uh, regarding something, right? Some help or something. So this is my contact number and email address, and you can write a couple of information. Okay, come and take again. Just developer info. Okay. Now the next one is a run instruction. All right. So run instruction is something where whatever changes you want to do in terms of installing some software and making some downloads. So what I'm doing, because I'm using Fedora image, so I can use yum install httpd. Definitely we need to give -y because it will ask for yes and no. Either we can also use dnf, so it will download and install docker image, sorry, install httpd, right, server. And then we are just copying some file. Maybe I have a file called ashutosh.html to the location of document root of web server. We already know about in web server that the home page is index.html. So it will only take data from current location of Docker host. So that means in copy instruction, you cannot give any path that is not currently present in the working directory where we are writing Docker file, right? It must be local enough. And then we are using expose keyword, and I'm just using 18. Right? I can use multiple expose if we have multiple port number. So this must be the default port of your web server. So as we all know that HTTPD has a default port number web server. So it's not the mandatory option, but still you can use that. Now entry point. Okay, so I'm calling HTTPD-d for for ground, right? So because we cannot use systemd here in Dockerfile, right? We talk about only single process oriented. So this will be the default process for container. So whenever we build this Docker image, and that will be the default process for the container. So let me save it. As I can see here in Dockerfile, I have this ashutosh.html file, but I don't have that file here. So I need to create that. Let me create a sample file. So I'm writing a very sample code. Let's say h1 and hello world. Okay. I'm just closing it. I'm just writing very sample code. You can write or you can copy whatever code you want. That's it. And then I'm just building it. So how we build? Docker build -t and followed by image name. Let's say Ashutosh Web version 1. Right. So in near future we'll talk about the naming convention, but right now you need to give a name, some name colon tag. So this is the standard practice of naming your Docker image, and dot means the location of your Docker file, because we are in the current directory, so we're just putting dot. So it is just, taking Fedora image as a base, then doing all the changes whatever we have written in the Dockerfile instruction. So as you can see here, it is just using maintainer, then run, and it will download the data from pre-configured repository of Fedora. So you don't have to worry about that. So you're just waiting Fedora repo to download the HTTPD software, and then let's check. Right. So the software downloaded and image got successfully tagged. We can cross-check the image by using Docker images. Okay. So this first image with the ID created 7 seconds ago with this size, right? So we'll talk more about this in near future, next tutorial. Till now, enjoy the Docker learning. Thank you. Bye bye.